We open the film with our protagonist, an inmate who will be released on parole. John was convicted and sentenced to 7 years in prison for involuntary manslaughter, a crime he committed while trying to save a man but which resulted in the death of another person. During his time in prison, John deeply regrets his actions and decides to change his life for the better. Because of this, he became a model inmate. He has served 4 years of his sentence and will now be released on parole. Upon re-entering society, our protagonist decides to look for a job at a construction company with a wage of $7 an hour. As night falls, John is in a bar when he suddenly sees some men harassing the waitress. He decides to intervene and grabs one of them by the throat, then asks him to apologize to the waitress. After escorting them out of the bar, the owner thanks him by offering him a job as a bouncer. Without thinking twice, John accepts. After some time working both jobs, our protagonist receives his first paycheck from the construction company. That day, his boss makes a mocking remark about him being an ex-convict. He believes these are people you cannot trust with anything. Back at the bar, John breaks up a fight between some men and lets them go on the condition they calm down, but they start fighting again, so he kicks them out of the bar. Surprised by the way he controlled the situation, the waitress's boyfriend approaches to hand him a card. If he wants to make a lot of money, he should call him to work together. The next morning, after leaving the site, the wife of the man he accidentally killed shows up in his life to speak with him in person. They go to a cafe, and she tells him she wrote a letter to the parole board asking them to release him. It turns out John used to write her letters while he was in jail as a form of remorse. Veronica tells him she did not do it to forgive him. She explains that her 8-year-old daughter needs an urgent heart transplant. She has contacted every organization and only one agreed to evaluate the case, but she has not received any concrete answer yet. John tells her he is sorry, to which Veronica replies that she does not want his pity. What she wants is for him to help save her little girl's life. The operation costs $200,000. Feeling morally obligated, John counts the money he has raised so far. Knowing his paychecks are not enough to cover the operation, he decides to talk to the waitress to get to Reno. It turns out the boyfriend is a promoter of illegal fights. Reno takes him to the place where the fights are held. Upon learning they are underground fights, our protagonist refuses to join. He thought it was another kind of job. Reno stops him and says there is a lot of money at stake. In one fight, he could earn up to $1 million. He must beat the best to reach those amounts. Despite this, John declines the offer. When speaking with Veronica, he confesses he has no idea how to help her. He has 2 jobs, but the pay is not enough to raise the $200,000 for the operation. Veronica becomes enraged and pulls out her cards to throw them at him. She promised to help him because of what happened. When she was in jail, he was very different from what he says now. Because of the shouting, her daughter wakes up asking if everything is okay. Her mother tells her to go back to her room. The man she is talking to is just her companion. Alone again, John promises he will do everything possible to help her. The next morning, his boss appears furious, yelling his name. He asked him to clean the 2nd floor an hour ago. John informs him he has been cutting wood at the saw as he was asked before starting the day. Sullivan mentions that all ex-convicts are the same and tells him to pack his things and leave the site. Suddenly, Sullivan begins to suffer a heart attack. He collapses and our protagonist tells his co-workers to call an ambulance. He performs resuscitation maneuvers, and thanks to this, he manages to save his life until the paramedics arrive. Later, we see our protagonist watching an underground fight. When Reno's fighter emerges victorious, John approaches to tell him he will take part in the fights. Taking advantage of the fact that his fighter is in bad shape compared to his rival, Reno replaces him and puts John in as a substitute. Before the fight starts, they advise him not to get overconfident. Some fighters do not know how to stop. When the fight begins, our protagonist dodges all his opponent's blows until his rival grabs his arm to bite him, knocks him to the ground, and delivers several blows. John manages to break free and lands a strike that shatters his opponent's teeth. At that moment, Deacon throws an iron pipe, but despite this, our protagonist manages to win with a direct blow to the chest. Upon receiving his pay, he decides to give half to the fighter he replaced. A couple of days later, Reno and the waitress show up at his apartment to ask him to continue fighting. If he wants to keep earning, he must bet his money to double it. To get a match against the champion, they need to raise a lot of money. From now on, he will live with them. While trying to arrange a second fight, the Deacon rejects him, saying they need more money to set up another bout. The people who saw him that night will bet a lot of money. The money will be used as collateral. John asks Reno to leave them alone. He wants to talk to Deacon privately. Deacon tells him he seems like a good person but is unknown in the business. People will not bet on him because they think they will win very little. What he is offering is not enough. The only way to arrange a fight is with money. With the aim of raising funds, they go to another place to try to find a fight for John. Upon noticing his presence, a man to whom Reno owes money tells his men to kill him. Our protagonist intervenes and says he will fight for Reno. If he wins, his debt will be forgiven. If he loses, besides being killed, he will also take responsibility for paying the debt. To make the fight more interesting, both end up betting $10,000. At the start of the bout, both seem evenly matched. After a couple of blows, our protagonist takes the advantage and with superior strength breaks his opponent's leg. His rival ultimately surrenders. After collecting the wager payment, the team goes in search of Deacon, but at that moment our protagonist receives a message from Veronica asking him to go to the hospital. Thinking it is his girlfriend, Frankie asks him about her, but John remains silent. Once at the hospital, Veronica tells him her daughter collapsed. John tells her not to worry, everything will be fine. He'll get the money as soon as possible. He has a plan in mind to get it. Meanwhile, the couple begin to argue out of jealousy. Frankie believes John is a good person, but her boyfriend tells her John spent 4 years in prison. He was convicted of killing a person with his own hands. He looked him in the eyes and strangled him to death. He had no feelings when he did that. That would not make him a good person. If they are helping him, it is because they need him. At that moment, both realize John was listening to them. The next morning, just before his fight, Reno tries to apologize for his comments, but John asks him to forget it. He does not want to talk about it. They must focus on the fight. When the bout begins, John dominates his rival without much difficulty. In the following scenes, we see our protagonist winning multiple fights. His toughest match was against a muscular man with chains whom he managed to defeat with a direct blow to the chest. While Frankie treats his wounds, Reno tells him they must raise $100,000 to be able to fight the champion. Suddenly, he receives a call informing him that no one wants to fight John because they fear him and do not want to risk losing. Reno tells him not to worry, they are afraid of him. This is good news. It means he is earning the respect of the fighters. He will make a few calls to find opponents. While Reno was playing, the thugs of another boss to whom he owes money appear to take him away. After beating him repeatedly, they tell him their boss wants the $50,000 he owes him. He had been current with payments, but now he is too far behind. What they want most is to be able to kill him, but Veltz told them to threaten him with his girlfriend. They will give him a week to pay his debt, otherwise his partner will pay the consequences of his delay. To make quick money, Reno sets up a fight against one of Nestor's men. His girlfriend is shocked by his decision. She thought the dealings with Nestor had ended. Reno tells her he does not have many options. He must pay his debt. To Veltz, they are forced to win. Losing is not an option. Before the fight begins, Reno advises him not to waste any opportunity. His rival is known for being dirty in fights. He will have to discover his vulnerable areas and exploit them to the fullest. He has known him for a long time. He has a glass jaw. If he lands a punch on his chin, he will fall to the ground and will not get up again. At the start of the fight, Yeo dodges his attacks and lands several punches. He gains momentum and hits him with his knee in the air, then smashes his fingers with the car door. Despite taking several blows to the face, our protagonist manages to break free. Yeo kicks him and tries to kill him with the window glass. At the least expected moment, John frees himself again and begins to hit him until knocking him out with a right hand. While celebrating his victory at the bar, Reno tells him that Frankie wanted to stop the fight, but did not do it because he trusts his ability to get out of complicated moments. If they continue with the winning streak, he will soon fight against the champion. John makes it clear to them that when he gets enough money, he will leave the underground fights. Reno tells him he would like that to be true, but he does not have control over it. At that moment, our protagonist receives a call from Veronica. Without wasting much time, they go to her apartment and find a letter notifying her that they have no heart donors for her daughter. Upon entering the bathroom, they realize that Veronica tried to take her life. John lifts her up and they take her to the hospital quickly. Once in the waiting room, Frankie asks him for explanations of what happened. John tells her that she is the wife of the man he killed. She wrote a letter to the parole board asking them to release him. Thanks to that, he was released on parole. Her daughter urgently needs a heart transplant. She asked him to get the money to pay for the surgery. That is the reason why he decided to join the underground fights. She asks about Reno, and he replies that he does not like being in the hospital. That is why he froze in the hotel. It is not the first time this happened. A couple of years ago, Reno saved her life. When seeing her arms, our protagonist notices that she has scars on her wrists. Frankie also tried to take her life in the past. After regaining consciousness, John talks to Veronica and tells her he saw the letter. He cannot understand her decision. He's doing everything possible to raise the money. She cannot give up so easily. Veronica interrupts him by telling him that her heart is compatible. John asks her not to do it. He will get the money in a short time. She must trust him. Upon returning to the apartment, Reno tells them he received a call from Nestor. He wants a rematch for the last fight. It will be his decision to accept it or not. He understands what he is going through. It is a complicated situation, but he must focus on the fights to earn money for the surgery. In the end, John asks him to organize it. After betting the money on the rematch, Reno is cornered by Veltz's men. Reno assures them he will give them the money. He bet all his capital on the fight. He is his best fighter. He has never lost a single fight. He will give them the money, with interest included. When he returns to Frankie, he hands her the keys to his vehicle and asks her to leave. She must trust him. His girlfriend asks for explanations, to which Reno responds that everything is in order. John sees them arguing, and when Frankie leaves, he approaches to ask him what happened. But Reno lies, telling him that he just wants some air. He needs a little space, as expected. Frankie comes back to watch the fight. At the beginning of the fight, Jamie pretends to throw a punch and then attacks him off guard. He throws him to the ground and tries to strangle him with some cables. John manages to untie himself and begins to take advantage in the fight. He lands several punches until his rival throws him to the ground again. John manages to break free with a hold and strikes him in the face again until leaving him with no chance to recover. Reno asks Nestor to surrender. The fight is already over. However, Nestor refuses to give up. The fight does not end until one of the two dies. Refusing to kill him, our protagonist decides to walk away. Because of this, Veltz's thugs take Reno. Frankie stops John and hugs him to calm him. At that moment, the deacon informs them that Reno was attacked. It turns out the thugs beat him up for losing the fight. On the way back to the apartment, John asks him about the amount he owes the thugs, to which he replies that it is $150,000. He did not say anything because it is not his problem. He already has enough problems with Veronica. Frankie mentions that Reno took care of his debt. That is the reason why they are now collecting from him. The next morning at the cafe, John notices the same men who were following him a couple of days ago. He decides to approach them and gets into the truck peacefully. When he arrives at a mansion, he discovers that Veltz is a relative of the boss at the construction site where he worked. The old man thanks him for saving his son-in-law's life. His workers told him he suffered a heart attack. He feels indebted for what happened. He will help him with whatever he asks. Our protagonist tells him about Veronica's situation. Her daughter needs a heart transplant, but she has no medical insurance. He decided to participate in underground fights to obtain the necessary funds for the surgery. It is a total of $250,000. He will bet everything he has in one last fight. That way he will be able to get a good part of the money. What he needs is $150,000. If he wins the next fight, a large amount of money will be at stake among the bettors. If he makes a bet, he could recover his money instantly with some extra earnings included. Veltz calls one of his men and asks if he has ever seen him fight. Manson replies that he is Reno's fighter, to which the old man is surprised, mentioning that Reno owes him money. They told him about the fight last night. If he had not walked away, Reno could have paid his debt. Anyway, he does not care. In his mind, they are separate matters. John mentions that Reno is his friend, to which the old man tells him not to worry. He always pays his debts. If he owes something, he will keep his word, but he must know that he will not solve both problems. He will have to choose between saving his friend's debt or receiving support in the fight for the little girl's heart. John asks what will happen to Reno if he does not manage to pay the debt, to which he remains silent, implying that they will end his life. Because of this, our protagonist chooses to save Reno's debt. After being discharged, John takes Veronica to her apartment. Veronica tells him that her daughter Sarah is the only achievement she has accomplished in her life. She confesses that she knows he did not kill her husband intentionally. What he did was in self-defense. Finally, she thanks him for his help. While packing his things to leave the apartment, Reno appears and tells him that he received a call from Veltz. He thanks him for saving his debt. He does not know how to thank him. He regrets the comment from that night. He is an excellent friend. He confesses that he knows he is selfish. That is why he has no friends. Frankie is the only person in his bond. He believes that she feels obligated because of what happened. She thinks that it was him who saved her life. But the reality is that she was the one who saved him. He is aware that it is best to let her go. But the reality is that he is very afraid. John tells him that Frankie loves him. When he was in prison, he thought about the things he did wrong. Everything he does is to achieve forgiveness for what he did. The reality is that he must forgive himself. But he is incapable of doing it. He does not know if he will manage to. Suddenly, Frankie interrupts them to tell them that the deacon is calling. It turns out that a man who remained anonymous put up the money for the fight to take place. Tomorrow night, he will have his fight against the champion. On the expected day, the fighters climb into the ring to start the fight. The champion begins by taking advantage and celebrating every time he knocks him down. At an unexpected moment in the fight, John manages to land a powerful punch that breaks his nose. His rival gets angry and gains momentum to attack him. Because of the jumps, the chains break, making the fight continue on the ground. Timmons drops the iron pipes and John throws himself into the oil to save himself. Thinking the fight is over, the champion and his team begin to celebrate their supposed victory, but at that moment, his opponent comes out soaked in oil to continue the fight. The champion knocks him down again with a kick, but his desire to win to help Veronica and redeem himself drives him to keep fighting. He lands several powerful punches, astonishing the spectators with his resilience. Finally, he ends the fight with a direct blow to the abdomen. Then the deacon approaches to congratulate him on his victory. John makes it clear that he knows he is the anonymous person who put up the money to make the fight possible. He thanks him for that, and they leave to suture his wounds. In the final scenes, we see that Veronica got a donor for her little girl. With the money raised from winning the fight against the champion, they will be able to pay for the surgery, with our protagonist talking with his friends. We come to the end of the movie.